Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into KCD5's Facebook Live halftime show. We are talking about the first half between the Kansas City Chiefs and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hometown team, they're down 21-6 in Super Bowl 55. So let's break it down. I'm joined now by my main man, former Chiefs linebacker Dezman Moses, and the brains of the operation, Breland Moore.
I don't know about all that.
I'm Jared Kohler. Thanks for rocking with us. My initial takeaway, Desmond, is that a million people across the world have tuned in the Super Bowl to see the ref show. All right,
Sure.
way too many penalties.
Yeah.
I might be a homer there, but give me your instant reaction from the first half.
Well, I think you hit it on the head. Obviously, the penalties have been huge.
Yeah.
They're killing the Kansas City Chiefs. Drive stoppers, you've seen it take a turnover away. It's tough to get turnovers at this stage in the season, especially in the Super Bowl. Every single time you get a chance to get the ball, it's a huge deal. The refs their faces are being seen a lot more than we like.
I'm looking out for the defenders. I mean,
Sure.
That's where you see how upset Tyrann Mathieu is. It's like,
Yeah.
let him play. It's hard. As you know, it's hard to defend in this league,
yeah.
and so there's going to be a little push. And so Charvarius Ward, Tyrann Mathieu, Breland, you got to let them play a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, you think that the refs would let the players decide the game, but again, me and Breland, we talked about it a little bit before we went on air. When you get some early penalties, the refs, these guys are locked in, and they're not going to allow you to hold on to guys on both sides of the ball. But man,
And that, yeah, exactly what we were talking about earlier today.
Sure.
It's just, okay, was that last Bashaud Breland call a little iffy? Yeah, maybe potentially, but it's still on him because he's had 2 holding calls
Sure.
already in the half. As you mentioned, Desmond, they're going to be looking for him and they're going to have their eyes out on him a little bit more. And so now everything, unfortunately, is going to go against him, and he's not going to get the benefit of the doubt because he already has 2 flags in the first half. Of course he's going to get that third one, even if it was a little suspect. So,
well, one thing to keep in mind too, Brady has a lot of respect from the referees. We hate to even suggest this, but they're not going to allow it.
Yeah.
They're going to make sure the game's clean. They're not going to let it be a defensive battle as we've seen. And it's been a tough game. But Kansas City defense, they'll have to stand up. They'll have to make some slight adjustments. Maybe tell the guys, hey, keep your hands off. Now we know what the refs are expecting. Hey, we got to make corrections, come out and win the game.
absolutely.
The GOAT is going to get some of those calls. That's the way it is. But that is why they play 2 halves of
Absolutely.
football, my friends. Here on Facebook Live, let us know your questions for a former Chief who has played against Tom Brady in the playoffs. We're hoping for a different outcome this time, though. All right, but he knows what it's like to hit TB12. So send us your questions. What are your thoughts? How are you feeling? Where are you watching from? Let's get this going. The weekend, you can watch that halftime show later. Let's talk some Chiefs football right now. And Desmond, you mentioned it. Second half adjustments. Andy Reid in the locker room, Steve Spagnuolo in the locker room. What is the message to the guys right now?
Settle down. Right now, Andy, they're saying just settle down. We still got number 15 at the helm. We've come from behind before. This is not a unfamiliar territory for them, but they need to make the adjustments and make them immediately.
And that's exactly what I thought, too, especially guys like Tommy Townsend,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
He's making some mistakes because he's nervous. And
Yeah.
I understand that. It's the biggest stage. And even though the Chiefs were here before, there are a lot of new faces
Sure.
in that roster or guys who were not in that lineup because of injury or, what have you. There's also an aspect, even though this is the Super Bowl and they've been here before,
Sure.
there is that pressure
Yeah.
of Tom Brady being on the other side of that ball, and so it automatically elevates it. And so I think that you're right, Desmond. They just need to settle down a little bit,
Well,
right?
I think they know that room, the room for error is a lot smaller when
Yeah.
you're playing against a guy who doesn't lose games.
Yeah.
He's going to make a play to win the game. So Kansas City, they got to come out and raise their level of play.
Absolutely.
Couple notes from me from the first half. Some good, some bad. Frank Clark opened up the game. The defense
Yeah.
started strong, got a sack. Actually, he moved into 5th place all-time for most career playoff sacks.
Wow.
Hard to think, but when you produce that much over a couple of years. A big play that Breland and I were saying could be a game changer, and I think still could be 4th and goal at the 2-yard line.
Yeah.
It started at 2nd and goal at the 2,
Yeah.
and the Kansas City defense stops. Folks, if they don't get a stop there, we're looking at 28-6,
Yeah.
and then it's
Yeah.
a massive comeback. Desmond, what stood out to you about what the defense did do well in stopping the run there, and especially in a goal line stand like
Sure.
that? It's to the last blade of the grass, and they stood tall.
I
Yeah.
already know what you're going to say, Desmond. You're going to shout out Iowa guys, aren't you? I know that you're going to
Hey.
shout out Hitch and Neiman here, so take it away.
Honestly, no, it's a collective effort. Like you said, 5-5. He came in, got some pressure on, got a sack early. This is crucial. This type of effort, and tough-nosed play is what Kansas City needs in the second half. They just got to remove their hands off the back end. They got to let those guys run and just use their feet, trust their hips.
Yeah.
The negative side on kind of both sides of the ball. One, Patrick Mahomes, I think he's played all right, everything considered.
Sure.
He's not had any time. I mean, I give credit where credit is due to the Bucs defense. They are blitzing up a storm, whether it's the DBs, the linebackers, or just straight up pressure from the D-line. Patrick Mahomes, his struggle a little bit. What kind of the offense, what is the solution? Because the screens, those quick outs haven't really worked. So what's kind of the next step in the scheme here?
Sure. Well, this is why I was very concerned about going into the game.
We talked about it this morning.
Yes, the offensive line, because that in combination with Patrick's bum toe, although he's not showing too much effect from it, he still knows in his mind he got to speed up his clock. And for any young player, Patrick is still a young guy. Let's not forget, this guy's a young player. For any young guy having to speed up their progression and speed up their game, it makes you a little uncomfortable, whereas Thomas Brady looks like he's moving in slow-mo.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had addressed that earlier today, that we knew that was going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Mitchell Schwartz being out for the latter half of the season has already kind of been an issue. And now, unfortunately, Eric Fisher also out, and his presence is absolutely missed here today. And it's unfortunate because that offensive line, give them credit. They are just constantly all over the place. Really a patchwork type of offensive line here, but it's
Bucs
just unfortunately. Yeah.
I mean, that's where sometimes you got to take your cap. 101, give a shout out to Susie, who is watching from East Texas. She says, really, all the penalties. I feel you, Susie. I feel you. Then the second one, Andy, he's got a question for Mr. Dezman. How critical do you think it is for the Chiefs to score 7 on the opening possession of the first half? Big drive.
Sure. I mean, they have to come out with a splash. They got to get back into the game, build some momentum, because that'll start things in the right direction. I think Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes knows how critical this opening drive will be, and they got to come out and play their best football.
And we've seen that, one big momentum shift is really all it needs for this team to get going and get cooking here, and then it's a completely different ball game. So I think you're absolutely on the money there. Big drive.
And Kansas City can put up points faster than any other offense in the league. That we know.
Yep.
Eric says the Kingdom will start strong, and so I ask who's the guy that needs to step up, because one, McCole Hardman has struggled.
Yeah.
But the other thing, Tyreek Hill could have held in that first touchdown. Would have been a good catch. I'm not saying he should have, but that's a play that if you're talking about being the best wide receiver in the NFL, it's one he could have caught. Then Travis Kelce, big day so far. He's really been, Mahomes' best target. He has 5 catches, 47 yards, but he has a crucial drop as well. Who are you kind of turning to get this offense going to start the second half?
Well, you have to turn to your stars, and this is where you say 10-87, hey, we need you. And that catch that he dropped, those are 2 catches that we've seen those guys make before, and we expect them to make in the second half. But you got to turn to your money guys. You got to start depending on them. Maybe throw into coverage sometimes when they're covered, or if they're man-to-man, and trust them. Let them make the play.
Absolutely. The stars need to step up and show that offense that we are just so used to seeing, because that was completely not at all the show that the 3 of us are used to watching every Sunday. That was completely not what I expected.
They were neutralized.
The SpongeBob meme where it's like, please say psych? That's me watching the first 2 halves.
We're dropping memes
or the first 2 quarters.
That's what I'm talking about. All the cool kids got that reference. We got the brains over it. Charlene says halftime show sucks, and so we thank you guys for watching us. We'd like to think that we are greater than the weekend. Breland might have been offended by that, but you know what? I'm saying
I just like to see, I like to see the spectacle a little bit, to make sure I can get all the memes on Instagram and Twitter just after the fact. So I'm going to go watch it eventually, but thank you for the heads up already that it's not great.
Listen, I'm going to say you ain't missing much. Let's talk some Chiefs football. We got somebody, Sharice is saying, I live in Jacksonville, and I can say they're going to go for Tampa. So, I mean, that's where some inside information from this source. Chiefs step up and take them down. So, Desmond, let's kind of talk about, let's see here. Let me pull up my first half notes. The other thing, not only with the penalties, but they came in crucial spots. That's one thing I think you look at, 5 penalties in the first 25 minutes, all right. If it's a 5-yard penalty, it's like the Bucs, one of their penalties, they were offsides, deep ball, that's a 5-yard penalty.
Right.
But it's coming on extra point or on field goal attempts, which gives them first down, then they turn into a touchdown. It's coming on an interception where Tyrann Mathieu had a pick. Breland was like, my MVP prediction. It's looking good.
I know.
I was so excited
Come on, the refs
because
took away.
I went out of the pocket specifically because I didn't want to pick Patrick Mahomes, and I was like, yes, already an interception for my guy, and then
penalty.
Just kidding.
As far as the crucial spot, I mean, how much extra pressure is there on third downs, on fourth downs with the games on the line in a game like the Super Bowl?
Sure. We call those money downs for a reason. You know, in the football world, you understand third down, fourth down, you have to get off the field. So to get a penalty in that position, in that place, it's tough because, you know, as a defender, when you think you're getting off the field, you run over to the side, then you got to pause and turn around and go back out to work. It's tough. It can be demoralizing. But, again, going into the second half, Kansas City will have to step up. They'll have to, play with their chest out, you know, and come back against the GOAT. And if they can do it, we'll be talking about Chiefs history and how great these guys are.
Oh, yeah. It's not a matter of if we know they can.
Sure.
It's just a matter of will they. A couple more comments saying the halftime show's leaving a lot to be desired. I'm just saying.
All right.
Ken says Mahomes to Pringle and Robinson, get them involved, especially since there's double coverage against Kelsey and Hill. So how much are the supporting players? Byron Pringle's had a few big targets. How much, we talked about Kelsey and Hill, but how much do they rely on Hardman to step up, Pringle to step up?
Sure. Hardman right now looks a little out of place.
Yeah.
You can see.
He and Mahomes just don't look in sync tonight.
Sure. And he's a young guy as well.
Yeah.
You know, a couple plays, Hots, he came around. He didn't recognize the blitz. Patrick threw him the ball. It was behind him. You know, those are just timing things and repetition deals. And it'll come with some time, but we need those guys to step up. Pringle right now looks super confident. I don't know if it's because he's playing at home, but in my opinion, they got to get 13 the ball.
That's a good point.
Have we seen Sammy Watkins at all? He is active.
Yeah.
Where is he? Is he just active for the sake of suiting up? Or, what is the deal with him?
It's a good point, and that's somebody we talked about as an X factor. That's somebody when you got Hill and Kelsey, normally it's Watkins who in the past has been a key playoff contributor against the Patriots last year in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Still have to play, but that's a great point, Breland. Looking up other questions, we got some more analysis. Oh, I lost them. Let me get my guy up here. Dale Jones says he has confidence in Andy Reid game plan. That's you're playing for two halves, not one. Chiefs good game plan in the field. Fourth quarter captain is coming to work. Desmond, let me ask you about a comeback. Because obviously if they do come back, it's going to be one of the all-time comebacks. But we've seen this team do it before. Why do they have that muscle in them that even though they're down a couple scores, that they're not afraid?
Well, they got all the horsepower they need.
Yeah.
And they have this three-point shooters. They can catch up quickly. They're like the Golden State Warriors of football. These guys can put it on you quickly, and before you know, your league could be gone, diminished. So Kansas City, they have all the pieces to do what they need to do. They just need to come out, play Kansas City Chiefs brand of football, and do what they need to do.
I think the most wonderful part is you were involved in this package that our colleague Neil Jones did, but he talked to some former Chiefs and asked what is different about this team than perhaps some of the other teams that were successful but weren't as successful about this crew. And almost every single one of you guys said Patrick Mahomes. There's just a sense of ease of okay, they're down, but who cares? We've seen this so many times before. Mahomes' magic is regal, and hopefully that comes to life in the second half here.
Great point.
I got Brian here. I got a lot of guys in here. Brian says Mahomes missed on 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. I think that's judging a little harshly, but the smart comment after that, Brian says, reminds me of the 2018 AFC Championship game. Mahomes, that to this point, that was one of his worst halves. The Chiefs didn't score at all in the first half.
Yeah.
Then they came back and they needed a Herculean second half, but that's kind of the blueprint. And that was only Mahomes' second game. Kind of take us in the mind of a playoff game specifically, because it's something where the Chiefs players are so accustomed to it now. They're accustomed to success, but especially in that 2016 year, you guys went down to Houston, you got the monkey off your back, but was there any nerves? Was there any fear going up to Foxborough? What's kind of a feeling like in a playoff game?
Yeah, there's less room for error. As a player, you want to play your best or you're going home.
Yeah.
So there's some extra pressure that's just built in. But these guys know either way they're going home, with or without the ring. So now you lay everything out on the field. It kind of relieves some pressure. You throw all your tools out. Andy's going to go down to the bottom of that play sheet. He's going to flip it over. He's going to pull all the shots. We might see Patrick Mahomes catch a touchdown in the second half.
Oh, whoa, Okay.
All right.
You heard it here first.
We are getting funky up in here.
I want the record to show that if that happens, pull up the tape.
Pull the tape.
Because my man was ahead. I didn't
like that.
I like it.
Dezman, he's getting crazy up in here. Jared, what else do you got for us?
Listen, some people are saying they want us to take over the KCD5 feed instead of the halftime show. Now, I'm
Is
not,
it that bad,
I mean,
guys?
listen, I'm just saying we appreciate all you guys. First of all, thank you to everybody who's watched
Sure.
the locker room shows this year, game day shows this year, and for hanging out with us here at halftime. Let's see, what are kind of our overall keys? Like, what are priorities? Like our
Sure.
to-do list? Like, Desmond, if I give you a graphic, like what needs to happen in the second half? What's priority 1, 2, 3, and so on?
Number one will be continue to get pressure on. Number two will be we got to relieve the penalties. These guys got to just trust their hips, trust their feet, and don't shoot themselves in the foot because it's difficult to keep momentum when you have
And
huge
they're
penalties.
silly penalties,
Silly.
too, half the time.
Yeah. And get 10 the ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, in the
absolutely.
backfield, screens, pass, direct snap, get 10 the ball.
I think, Desmond, you and I had very similar keys to the game earlier this morning during our Price Chopper Game Day show, and we said the same thing, essentially. Pressure Tom Brady, force him to make mistakes. He threw 3 interceptions in that NFC Championship, 2 against this team in Week 12. Make him make those mistakes yet again. Keep Patrick Mahomes clean and protected, especially because he is injured and is dealing with that bum toe, as you mentioned. And then the third thing is play your game.
Right.
Right now, we're not seeing that Kansas City Chiefs style of football that we're used to seeing. We're seeing mistakes, and quite frankly, some of those penalties are just sloppy, in my opinion. Clean it up. Clean up your game and just play the way that you know how to play, and I think they'll be fine. But that's the problem. Is, in my opinion, it's mental at this point.
Yeah. Well, those guys are a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
It's tough when you're backups. Some of those guys have been forced into position. Some of those guys have been moved out of their natural position. So, you can't discount those type of things for guys, and they're going up against, again, two top-tier defensive ends. They just got to trust in each other. Just trust it.
Yeah.
I think a good point is people are saying here, turnover. That's the key. I mean, think about how different. You got the turnover on downs, but think about how different we're talking about this half if there wasn't that penalty on Charvarius Ward and the honey badger, the landlord, comes away with that interception. And I think that's going to be crucial. Let's say, for example, the Chiefs come out, score an opening drive touchdown. Then if they get a turnover, and then it's totally a one-score game, they got the ball and we're right back in it. And so that's what I mean when I say this game is a lot closer than people think. One, because of how dangerous this Chiefs offense is, but because of how much the game can change. Tom Brady threw 3 interceptions last week, or 2 weeks ago against the Packers.
Yeah.
He's capable. I know in his GOAT status, his playoff. At 43 years old, he's a little interception prone, so the Chiefs can get it done.
Sure.
One of the arguably the most disappointing part about the first half, Tommy Townsend.
Oh, man.
Not a good day. Desmond,
I
don't want to bag on the punter, but other than his hair, he ain't bringing much else to the game right now.
He looks a little bit nervous, man. He's a rookie. He's in his first Super Bowl. You can never discount how bright the lights may be to some other people. You see people react differently on the biggest stage. Some guys, everything slows down. Some guys, everything speeds up. It looks like for Tommy right now, things are moving very quickly. He just needs to settle in, trust his training, and kick the ball.
One of my very good friends, who is actually friends with Mort Anderson, the NFL kicker, told me a really good, a really good quote. What is the difference between practice and a game? You're using the same type of equipment. It's the same thing over and over. Just block everything else out, and you are doing the same action you come in and do every single day. And that was told to me because of TV. I was nervous about doing something big, and this particular individual who used to be a collegiate kicker was like, somebody told, Mort told me just to relax and just focus on your game. And I think that's exactly what Tommy needs to do. Just take the mental aspect out of it and just do what he's capable of doing. We've seen him shine, and that's all he needs is just to strip away that mental. And it's hard. I know that it's hard. You get anxious, you get nervous, but that's just part of it, and hopefully somebody pulls him aside and gives him similar advice.
Well, that's the reason why you practice, so you get that muscle memory. And for the guys who really take practice serious and elite guys, they're able to just tune right back into those practice reps. And that's what he needs to do. Just trust his training. I'm sure Dave Tobe will get him settled in.
Absolutely.
Dave Tobe's one of the best special team coordinators in the NFL.
It's not really been a great year for Dave Tobe, and that's where it's a little uncharacteristically. Thankfully, a positive note, Harrison Butker, money.
Hey,
He's responsible for all 6 points. 49-yarder than another.
He's been slightly a little bit scary at times this season, but you know what? Not today, and that's what matters.
And they need it. I mean, listen, they're going to need every point in the comeback. Kind of a summation, especially in games like this. You can't narrow it down to just a couple plays as the difference maker, but just to give you an idea, I mean, Chiefs are down a couple scores. One drive ended with a pass bouncing off Hill's helmet. Next drive ended bouncing off Kelsey's hands. Then Townsend shanks a punt. Matthew interception, called back on a Ward penalty. Offsides on a field goal went from 3 points to 7 points. All of that combined is anywhere from a 7 to an 18-point swing. I mean, that's where now all those things aren't going to go your way, but you could argue all of those are self-inflicted penalties.
Sure.
And you're not going to play a perfect game, but when you shoot yourself in the foot like that, a team like the Bucs, they're going to make you pay. Yeah. Desmond, I mean, how key is, I think we talked about this earlier in the playoffs, not shooting yourself in the foot and just doing your job. That was one of your notes this morning. Just do your job.
Just do your job. Nothing more, nothing less, because when you try to do someone else's job, then inevitably it comes back and, you know, your man, your assignment is the one that is hit. So, in my opinion, they just really have to slow it down. Trust their training. You know, this isn't Kansas City brand of football right now. They got to get it together. In a hurry.
They sure do.
Because Thomas Brady will not lose games. That's one thing we do know.
Well, I mean, I've seen him lose the Super Bowl before, and so have you. But we're not going to talk about that 41-33. Okay.
Although, Steve Spagnuolo, the brains of the Chiefs defense, he has beaten Tom Brady in the Super Bowl before. Chiefs have been here.
He was involved in the catch off the helmet.
Exactly, and that's the thing. We're talking about Tommy Townsend. The nice thing about this group is pretty much everybody on that field, with the exception of Townsend and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, has been in this spot. They've been down multiple scores in the fourth quarter. They haven't forgotten about that last year. And so this isn't where we want to be.
Right.
But they almost got them right where they want them. I'm just saying. All right? I'm not out here calling for a Mahomes catching a touchdown pass, but I'm saying I think the Chiefs like playing from behind. It's going to make a better story. And you know what? It's going to make a better post-game show on KCD5 right after the game. Desmond, Breland.
We'll be here.
Jared, Neil, Danny, the whole crew. We're going to be breaking this game down in some extent for an hour and a half after the game, so remember to keep it here on KCD5. Guys, last word. How are we feeling? What is the, Desmond, you know I like to get a vibe check.
Sure.
All right, I like to get, how's
how we doing?
Check the vibes.
Are we a little anxious, a little excited, nervous? Are we good? We kicking the feet up? How are we feeling?
I wouldn't say I'm excited about the position they're in, but I know Kansas City, we have Patrick Magic, we got Mahomes Magic, we got Tyreek Hill, we got Kelsey. We have all the weapons, all the firepower we need to come back. If any other team was in this position, I would say this game is over, but for Kansas City, they still have a shot.
And I feel the exact same way. It's just, I feel okay. Obviously, as we just talked about, there needs to be adjustments. But that being said, if there was any other team, I would be throwing in the towel. But I have seen this team come back over and over and over and over again. We're cooling.
Yeah, we're cooling.
We're just chilling. All right, that's all it is. Guys, thank you so much for rocking with us. We really appreciate it. We will have much more coverage, obviously, tonight after the game. And throughout the week, guess what? Here at KCD5, it's year-round business. Just because the Chiefs season ends tonight, we've got all kinds of more sports coverage all through the year on our locker room shows, and then next year, of course, with game day. So we appreciate everybody for watching not only this, but all year long. It's been a lot of fun. And we're hoping to not only run it back tonight, but a three-peat next year. Let's get this dynasty ball rolling, all right? I'm getting ahead of myself. But either way, we appreciate you watching. For Breland Moore, Dezman Moses, I'm Jared Kohler. Go Chiefs.